that the victims have suffered at the gruesome effects of the fire. We would further like to acknowledge the bravery of our EMS department in all their attempts that they have made to try and rescue and salvage the situation. It was indeed a moment that was emotional to many of us. It was indeed a moment of sadness when you have to walk through the street and you witness the tragedy of people having lost their lives in such large numbers. I am here to introduce to you the technical team that has done a preliminary investigation on the situation, who will give you the stats of the extent of the damage that was caused and the loss of lives that the city of Johannesburg has experienced. The executive is not present here because they are on the ground, which is where I need to be going myself. All three spheres of government will be engaging in the next 30 minutes to resolve on a long-lasting solution, because we feel that it is prudent and critical for us to put measures in place to ensure that we do not experience the same situation again. The city of Johannesburg has indeed experienced a series of disasters, of tragedies. But as the executive will say, it ends today. And whilst the technical team assists with all the information that you would require, because we understand that there are a lot of households that are anticipating answers to certain questions that they may have. Allow me to leave you in the capable hands of the technical team. I have given them the necessary support that they require to fully represent the extent of the situation. And we will call a press briefing officially so that we can pronounce on our next course of action. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor. I know the city manager will now take over and go through the statement that has been prepared by the emergency management services and the technical team. For colleagues, if you see the mayor exit at some point, as he has said, they are going to engage one as the three spheres of government and the engagements that he is required in currently, and they will also be visiting those who are in hospital. Some of the MMCs have already proceeded to commence with those visits. Let's allow you, City Manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Executive Mayor, our councillor here present from the ward, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the opportunity. As we are all aware, the morning, the city of Johannesburg, our emergency management services responded to an alert at 80 Albert Street in Marshalltown, Johannesburg. Sadly, our firefighters received their first alert around 19 minutes past 1. Our first responder was on site at 29 minutes past 1, and the fire department then rapidly deployed the following equipment. We had two fire engines on site, one industrial pumper, one heavy rescue vehicle, one air truck, two level 2 incident command units, one Bronto, one ladder truck, 43 firefighters, and 14 officers that were on site. All of this is in line with the South African National Standards on Community Fire Safety Requirements for a building of this nature, which is a 5-story building. The Gauteng Provincial Health Emergency Management Services also attended to the scene, and they began the process to assess, to stabilize, and to treat and transport the injured from the incident. At this stage, we can confirm, as at around 2 o'clock this afternoon, 61 people were treated at various medical facilities within the city and in around the city. 16 of those have been discharged, and we have about 17 that remain admitted at this stage within the hospital and the casualty units. These patients are at the following facilities: the Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital, Charlotte Macheka Hospital, Yellen Joseph, the South Rand Hospital, and also the Tembisa Hospital. Tragically, we can now confirm that there's about 73 fatalities. 66 of those are adults and 7 children. Let me at this stage express our condolences to the families and the affected ones of the deceased, and hasten to add that all efforts are being put in place to provide the families and all the affected with the relevant social and psychological support through the city's disaster management as well as the Provincial Social Development Department. Our Social Development Department already deployed 16 social workers to provide assessment, trauma counseling, and psychological support to those affected and affected families. The City of Johannesburg, the disaster management, is working with our Human Settlement Department. This is specifically to coordinate the accommodation for those that are affected in the area. At this stage, we have 3 sites that we've already identified for those affected families, in order for us then, whilst we continue with the rescue operations and investigations for that particular building that has burned. The 3 sites are the Hoffland Recreation Center in Bess Valley, the Ikaya Shelter in Hillbrow, the Impilo Shelter in Fairview or Jeppystown. So after about 72 hours or so, the Human Settlements Department will then advise where they will be taken to once all the logistics are related to the verifications and once that has been finalized. So we are saying to you that there are different types of accommodation that we then usually offer. So when you look at the emergency relief accommodation, that is usually for the first 72 hours. Then we will then look at other temporary accommodation that the city will then provide to them. We can then indicate to you at this stage we are approximating that it's about 200 families or 200 households that have been affected in that particular building. I wish to then also to confirm that the affected building, it does belong to the City of Johannesburg. This is a building that we previously leased to the Provincial Social Development Department, where they used it specifically as a shelter for abused women. At the conclusion of that particular lease that I'm referring to now, some of the challenges that were encountered were the occupants, and as a result of the hostilities and the stalemate, the building was then invaded and hijacked. In October 2019, we can indicate to you that through our Group Forensics and Investigation Services Department, they conducted a specific raid one evening of that particular building. At that point, about 140 or so foreign nationals were arrested at that point, and they were charged for illegally collecting rental from tenants at that particular building. The case was then opened with SAPS, and no update is immediately available at this stage. So as and when we were done with that particular raid, there was then preliminary findings from that particular raid, and that was then handed over through to SAPS. At this stage, fire safety has commenced with the investigations into the cause of the fire, and it has been part of the rescue operation from the morning. There is at this stage no preliminary reports available, and as and when our team from EMS will come in later, they will indicate to you there are specific processes and protocols that we would need to ensure that happen before we can release any report to the media. So as the city, we appreciate the assistance and the offers that we've received thus far, and I must indicate to you, Executive Mayor, as well as the media, we've been inundated with requests from the private sector coming through, NGOs, businesses and so forth, coming through providing and offering a helping hand during this time of the disaster. As earlier stated, this is a tragic event, an incident, and one that is unprecedented given the number of lives that has been lost in this incident. We will do our best to ensure that we act diligently in investigating the fire and equally in our pursuit to reclaim the hijacked and illegally occupied buildings in the city. We would at some point provide you with further information and plans on what it is that we are doing specifically with the level of lawlessness and hijacked buildings within the city of Johannesburg. Thank you very much. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you very much. I think at this stage maybe we can excuse the executive mayor. For those colleagues who are unaware, the president will be visiting the site, President of the Republic, at 5:30. So we are going to try to push so that by that stage we are done here. Maybe with your permission, City Manager, may we allow the Chief of EMS maybe to make a few comments if you would want, and then the COO of the Gauteng Health Department to do the same, especially with regards to the work that the forensic pathologists are doing following the fatalities that we've suffered, and after we can allow colleagues to field some questions. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Mle. Good evening, CM, the executives in the House, MMCs, political parties, the media, fire chiefs from other sectors. Mine is just to give a bit of indication of a way forward from a fire site or fire emergency services. We haven't yet handed over the scene totally to the police, South African Police Services, because of the certain things that we still have to embark on. From 14 hours, we've already declared the scene to be more of an investigative sort of space. By the time we preparing to come this side, we could actually at that point account for 73 bodies. But the challenging part was there was also indication of certain bodies being missing. Henceforth, we had to go and comb the entire scene from the basement up until to the 5th floor. I'm also reporting to say that we're still going to go on and do a thorough investigation. Abroad on everything, we still have to have a structural engineer who's en route on scene to make sure that the structure's integrity is sound, and also to prepare a report jointly with the South African Police Services. Therefore, you'll, from the media side, get a lot of queries of saying, why can't you occupy that building? The building, from our own space, in our own sort of space, we're saying it's still not safe for human habitat. Up until we announced with fire engineering sort of expert who can tell us yes or no, and also the police do what they're supposed to be doing. As the CM already indicated earlier on, all affected families, they'll be sent to different shelters, and those shelters, they do actually comply. We've done our own sort of fire inspection. They definitely meet the requirements, as to say, going forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief. COO, maybe you can just use the mic in front of you, and then it can be audible. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Chair, and good afternoon, CM, and all our senior officials, both in the city and elsewhere within the Gauteng government. What I can say, at the moment is that our team, both emergency medical, services personnel, as it has been mentioned, and the forensic pathology, services, are on the ground, and they've assisted, really well throughout the course of the day. The issue around, the process that will be followed, when we're doing our postmortems, will be outlined just now by Mr. Mpahlaza. But Chair, perhaps at a later stage, I would want to come through and announce the numbers that can be used by the people who would want to do inquiries, both for forensic pathology related services where we have deceased, and also for some of the patients that we are still looking after across our hospitals. But for now, I'm going to allow Mr. Mpahlaza, if you can tell us about the process that is currently being outlined in dealing with the postmortems. Many thanks.
Thank you, COO. Thank you, City Manager. Good afternoon, colleagues. So far, I can confirm that we have managed to retrieve 74 bodies, which are full bodies, that we have already processed them or registered them in the Diepkloof mortuary. With those bodies, we are having 4 body parts that we will, through the DNA analysis, ascertain whether those parts they belong to each body. Among these 74 bodies, we are having 24 females, adults, 40 males, adult, and undetermined gender, which is 10 bodies, because those bodies were burnt beyond recognition. And among those that I've mentioned, we are having 12 children involved also in this tragedy. In terms of the response vehicles, we managed to dispatch one disaster truck, which was able to carry 23 bodies from the scene, as well as 10 body collection vehicles. In terms of our team, we dispersed at least 26 members to respond to that particular scene. So far, we are busy processing those bodies, registering the bodies. As the COO have mentioned, that there will be contacts that we'll be sharing to the media for the family to make use of it. But we intend to process those bodies and make them ready to be viewed as early as tomorrow morning. Then the issue of when those bodies, the postmortem will be conducted, it will be communicated in due course, because we still have to undertake the processes of the DNA analysis and also to try to get identification of those that we can be able to take fingerprints from them through the digital fingerprint system that we have just launched recently in the forensic pathology services. Once those 2 processes are done, then we will be able to assist the families in terms of viewing the bodies that can be viewable, but those that cannot be viewed, obviously we will take the DNA sampling from the family members as well and from the bodies that are not identifiable. And thank you so much, COO. Thank you so much, City Manager.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I will now allow an opportunity for questions. Can you just switch off that mic? Can I allow an opportunity for questions, colleagues? If there's any, we just shoot short questions. I take the first hand here, second, third at the back. Yeah, I'm just trying to see if there's any other hand, because we also want to conclude as soon as we can. That will be the 4th hand. Okay, can we take those 4? I'll start here. You just introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Bule Litruti Jones from ENCA. I just have a few questions I wanted to ask. So who will be assisting the families in identifying the bodies? That's the first question. Who is assisting in tracing the missing people or bodies? And also, just a last question. The Socio-Economic Rights Institute says it has never litigated against the City of Johannesburg in relation to the building. But however, it says that it has consistently tried to engage the city to improve the conditions of the shelters around the city. City Manager, maybe if you could tell us, are you aware around these concerns that have been raised before in regards to some of these decaying and dilapidated buildings in the city? Thanks.
Thanks. It's Alex Patrick from News 24. So the building was owned by the city, and it's the city's responsibility to maintain this building. And it was the JPC's responsibility to maintain the day-to-day running. Was this done? If not, why was this not done?
Hi, Lindsay Shutar from the New York Times. I was just wondering, since the city owned the building, when was the last time an inspection, a fire inspection, or any well-being inspection was done at the particular building? And then also, do we have any further information on the non-profit that was running the shelter that was in that building, and why that lease ended, and will they be held accountable in any way?
Hi, Mohammed from Fanako TV. My question is based on the significance of this. I see that it's not really being highlighted even in the media. That's the old past building. It's a heritage site. It's a very important piece of heritage product. And it's such a pity that the city didn't take into the significance of it. That could have been a site that could have been used as a museum or something. So I'm just asking, in terms of the heritage department, have you explored other ways of using the city besides using it as a shelter or a place of residence? Yes.
One last inspired hand here.
Sure. Sorry, Aaron from Eyewitness News. I just want to clarify on the death toll. We've given 24 females, 40 males, 10 undetermined, and 12 children. That's 86. So I'm just trying to clarify.
Okay, no, that will be clarified for you. Thanks, colleagues. That's the only round we are going to allow, so I hope we won't get any other inspirations, because as I've said, we need to get back to site because the president is on his way there, and the team that's here is also necessary to brief him there.
Sorry, I thought maybe there was going to be a second round, but City Manager, just in regards to the case that you say was open in 2019, what happened to that matter? Was the person allegedly involved in the hijacking of this building arrested? Did you follow up with the court case? Was he sentenced or was he released? What happened? Because there's seemingly a problem around hijackers being arrested and then later released and they commit the same crime again. Thank you.
Thanks. Let's hand over to you, Sion.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Emily. I would allow the team that's next to me also to provide some responses to those. Who will be assisting the families? So between us in our social development department in the city of Johannesburg, as well as the social development for the province, again, it's an IGR related issue. We will be working with other spheres of government to provide the relevant support. The acting coup will also provide the numbers, so I can also provide the numbers. We will do anything and everything in our power to ensure that we provide that level of counseling and support and move along with those affected families. The tracing of the missing people, I would allow my colleague from health to touch on it, but in essence, our team in EMS, as indicated by the acting chief of EMS, is already combing that particular area from the basement going up, and it's usually what they refer to as sweeping, for them to go floor per floor, room per room, to double check and to see what it is that they are still finding. And I'm sure that the Chief Monageng will also be indicating to you what it is. With regard to the one for Seri, and I want to be very clear in the media at this point, I'm not going to entertain any of those particular questions at this point. It's still at an early stage. It's an incident. It's quite tragic for us. We are aware of some of the decaying buildings, and we wouldn't want to play any form of political football, specifically when it's a tragedy like this. So we are aware of the decaying of the buildings. We are aware of hijacked buildings within the city. We can indicate you the level of lawlessness, but we can also indicate you what plans we have in place to address this. The last question that you squeezed in, Pule, from your side, is the case in 2019. The preliminary information that we do have is that that particular case was closed in 2022. But we need to verify the information. And at this point, what we received early this morning was that the particular person, there was no proper evidence or something like that. But it's something that we would need to follow up. And I wouldn't want us to conclude at this point on exactly what it is. But we should be able to provide some information as we are moving forward. Alex, you touched on the issue of that it's a COJ building. Indeed, it's a COJ building. And I think my colleague from EWN was clear that... the other one, indicating that it's the significance of this building and it's a heritage building. Indeed, if you had to go into the history of this building, right on the top floor, the 5th floor, was a court. It was a floor for a court during the apartheid days and so on. But again, it's some of the things that we can discuss as we are moving forward between us and the Heritage Department or those that are responsible for it. But what is critical for us now is, one, to seal off the building, secure the building, and also to get our structural engineers in as early as tomorrow morning to start to look at the structural integrity of that building and to declare whether that building is safe and so forth. But what we can indicate to you, we are not going to allow anyone to enter that building up until such time it is safe. But again, it's a hijacked building. We had issues of illegal connections for water and electricity. We will not be allowing anyone in, and that is why we are providing temporary and other accommodation, and we will be accommodating those people there. The one on the fire inspection, I will allow the chief to touch on that. The number 74, you would have heard that I spoke about the number 73, and our colleague from health spoke about 74. The difference between the two is that the one that they would have included is the one that was also succumbed in hospital. Usually from a protocol point of view, you would then refer to those that were on site, which is the 73, but he already indicated the other one as well, and that is why you'll hear the number 74. There was an issue, or there was a question raised with regard to when you look at the numbers, the 12 that we indicate there, the 12 is an of which number of that 74 in this case that are children. So it's not 74 plus 12. The 12 is an, in accounting terms, we would refer to it as an of which number. So it's an of which of the 74. I've touched on the significance of the building and the others. I would allow my colleague Sam Lee maybe to add there if I've missed anything, and right at the end when we wrap up, I will be able to provide the numbers for the hotline for affected families and others to contact. Let's start with you, Acting Chair.
Thanks, Ian. Let me respond to the issue of how do you then identify the bodies, or who's going to maybe assist in this kind of regard. As Department of Forensic from Gauteng Province, they already submitted to us to say that they've received or they've received from us 4 body parts. That is an indication of saying during the fire, some will succumb to body fire, to fires, some will burn in their bodies, and part will be left behind. Therefore, within our own space in terms of our operation part of things, we can't just leave the scene bare open just like that in a point. Therefore, whatever we find that looks like a limb, that we find as body parts, we'll actually go back, reconcile, take it back to pathologists, and make sure actually the family can bury that with respect. But not only doing that, as I said to you, the scene is still going on. We've got our K9 from JMPD, we've got a K9 from South African Police Services. That will come at a later stage when the building is cool. Then we'll use the K9 now to do what you call sort of body recoveries. Therefore, K9, because they've got good sort of smell, they'll then assist us in allocating the caravans where they are, and we can actually, with the indication of saying where they are, explore, go and dig, go and open up, and actually try to retrieve those kind of bodies in a point of situation. That's how we're trying to do on this kind of measure going forward to the point. The question from Lindsay is, when was this building inspected? We need to be aware, as the CM said earlier on, the building was hijacked in 2019, and in that regard, a case was opened for those who occupied or hijacked the building. Before that could happen, fire safety will go in with other stakeholders from the city, for the likes of GFIS. We'll make sure that we tick all the boxes and make sure that buildings comply. It was indeed definitely inspected in June 2019. From then, we never went back and inspected the building. And rather than it's simple, you wouldn't want to go back in there in a hostile environment. As it was said earlier on, it wasn't just a clear, simple sort of environment where it was. There were tussles in between. No one will want to see us come and do and enforce and do what we're supposed to be doing within a space. Therefore, that's why we're sitting on the same on this one, as to say that. But definitely, GFIS was supporting us. We went in there with GFIS, with JMPD, with other sectors actually to assist us to make sure that we apply the rule of law going forward. It was a hijacked building. Indeed, I repeat the point then. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. I think I will just respond to one question regarding the tracing of the families. Sooner we are able to get the identity of those, we can be able to take the fingerprints of those people. The police are the ones who are conducting the investigation in cases of this nature, and also in terms of tracing the families. Then in terms of the contact person for the facility in Diepkloof, the numbers will be provided by the COO, which is which will be the call center numbers that the department have activated. So yeah, that is where how far I can go now. Then the rest of the communication in terms of the telephone numbers, the COO will respond to that.
Okay, no, thank you very much. I will leave the reading of the numbers to the CM towards the end. But what I want to mention, Pule, is that we are expecting that there will be a lot of inquiries around people who would be, interested in finding out where their loved ones are, either in hospital or even at our forensic pathology, services as well. So we are creating a situation where we would not want, people to run around our hospitals. They've already gone through a very, very tragic event. So these numbers are going to assist us with tracing not only for those that are in hospital, but including those that may have been deceased as well. So the help desk that has already been established, it's quite diligent in nature. It will collect detailed information in relation to the caller in cases where we are not able to provide a response immediately. So we are doing this in order for us to be able to have a situation where we are more coordinated, in our approach in dealing with, tracing of missing loved ones. It's something that we are already anticipating that will take place. But the CM will read out the numbers towards the end. Many thanks.
All right, no.
Yeah, just before you read the numbers, can you also just respond to the question about the NPO who had previously leased the building and if we placed them? The question from the New York Times, if you are able to deal with it.
Yeah, I might not have the full details specifically on that and wouldn't want to mislead or misdirect anyone, but it's something that we'll make a note of. I'll talk to the team in JPC because it's something I think it was around 2013 or so that it expired or so, but we will be able to avail that information once I do get it, right? In terms of the numbers for the call centers, it's 0800 203 886, 0800 203 886, 011 355 3048, 011 355 3048, and then the last number is 011 241 5707. Have you lost it? It's the accountant and me. I thought you would have captured by now. Let's take it again. 0800 203 886, 011 355 3048, 011 241 5707. In future, Emily, I will ask the COO from Health to give the numbers. Emily, from my side, I think from the team, that is our briefing for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I think what we'll also do is that we'll request the team from the City of Joburg through their social media accounts to tweet those numbers. And once again, we want to promise you, like we did at the unfortunate tragedy of Free Street, that we will regularly update in this manner so that there is no scramble for information, but we are available to provide it to you in this kind of forum and be as transparent and as accountable as possible to residents as well.
Sorry, I just want one question, please, before you go. Where are the shelters, City Manager?
So those are the ones in and around the CBD, and the colleague that's sitting next to you will be able to give you the clear direction of where it is, but it's the three that I've mentioned earlier.